Hey, folks, we'll start in 1 minute. Hello, everyone. It's 5 o'clock, so we will get started. This is being recorded, and we'll post this so that other people can watch this after the fact. It is not being streamed to Facebook because Facebook is having issues today and is down, but it will be recorded and posted to our YouTube account after this session. So I wanted to have an opportunity to meet with parents to talk about bus transportation, some of the difficulties we've been having this year. And I want to answer your questions and also give you a chance to share your input or suggestions for the future. Now that we've made it to the 5th week of school, things are getting better, certainly, but that's not to say it's not been a difficult road to hoe for all who've been involved. And so I want to thank all of you who are watching and those who have been a part of this school year for your patience, your support, and your help in getting things to a place that we feel comfortable with. We're not quite there yet, but we're doing our very best to get there. Representatives from Butler Bus are on this call and are paying attention, and they're available to answer some questions with me as well. I thank them for being here. So first, I wanted to share that we are constantly in contact with our bus company. Every single day, morning, noon, and night, we are working through the various issues that present themselves. Something that we've worked through with them is the ability to keep track of individual buses and to track their movements to make sure we can support them in making things better. So I'll share with you, this is a live view of all of the buses that Butler Bus operates, and we can see exactly where they are down to the second in real time. And so you can see most of them are at the Milford Bus Yard. Each one of those blue arrows is a bus that's parked at the Milford Bus Yard. But during the day, when there are bus issues, we're in the software and we're tracking individual buses. We're also able to go back and see their path, how far they've traveled, where they stopped, how fast they were going, and all of that information. So the bus company's been very gracious in allowing us to access that information so that we can assist with issues as they arise. Something we're also doing is we're tracking the data on a daily basis as well. This is the information from September 29th, and it shows in the morning every bus when it arrived to Clark, how long it was there, when it departed, when it arrived at Wilkins, how long it was there when it departed, and then when it got to Sauhegan for the AMS and Sauhegan kids. It also tracks the 3 Mount Vernon buses with the same information. It does the same information in the afternoon, and we color code it so we can track and see issues as they arise. We also are able to track every day for our various buses and to see bus by bus how they're doing on a given day. And so you can see I've not updated this in so far this week, but this tracks each individual bus, and we can see by bus every single day of the school year so far when they've arrived at different places and how all of their times have been. So just know that we're looking at that on a daily basis. And the GPS data in particular, but we're also tracking and exporting the data and looking for trends and issues as they arise. So we'll continue to get that right. Something I wanted to mention, the bus company has several drivers in bus training, and bus training takes a lot longer than I would have imagined. It takes several months and several weeks for bus drivers to go through that certification process to be certified bus drivers in New Hampshire. That's probably a good thing. We don't want people to just go out and start driving a 71 passenger bus without the proper training. But when we're short on drivers, it sure is frustrating when it takes a long time to get new drivers out and about. But we have at least 4 in the training process that will be joining our fleet, I think at the end of this month, if I'm not mistaken, and that will help with the bus 4 route that was dissolved and some of the other issues with spares, transportation to away games for our athletes, et cetera. We're also looking into the purchase of some vehicles by the district in order to help with some of the bus transportation issues for some of our clubs and activities and athletics. So we're working through all of that. There's some legal implications and insurance things and all sorts of issues. It's not that simple, not to mention that there are not very many vehicles, if any, available for purchase right now because of the worldwide computer chip shortage, but we're working on that as well. So I want everyone who's watching to understand that we're going to keep working to get these bus transportation issues right until they're fully resolved and until our buses are running on time, kids are getting to school on time, and we have the most efficient routes possible. We do know it's somewhat of a cyclical problem in that when the buses don't run well, more people start driving their kids to school. And what that does is create more traffic on Boston Post Road. Not really an issue at Mount Vernon, but issue at Wilkins, issue at Clark, issue it for AMS and Sauhegan. More cars are dropping their children off or picking them up, and that delays the buses further, which is exacerbates the issue. So we know we have to get the buses running right for more and more parents to trust that they can rely on the buses for on-time service and all of that. So those are really my comments to start. I really wanted this to be an opportunity for you as parents and community members to voice your concerns and to ask questions if you'd like. And so what I'll do is I'll open the floor for questions. If you'd like to speak your question, you can certainly do that by using the raise your hand feature and I'll call on you, or the Q&A function at the bottom. You can type your question and I'll respond to it that way. So either way is fine with me. I do have a school board meeting at 6, and so I've got until about 5:30 or 5:40 to be with you folks before I need to sign off and get prepared for that meeting here at Sauhegan. So any questions from anybody, please let her rip. I don't see anybody yet with their hand up, and I don't see any questions in the Q&A quite yet. So I'll wait patiently for any questions as they arise. All right, Aaron McDevitt, you have the floor, and if you can unmute yourself, you may ask your question.
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So I had a question about, I had two kind of separate questions. One is about just kind of accountability on when buses are late.
I'm sorry, Mr. McDevitt, keep speaking. I hit the mute button by accident for you. So if you could unmute yourself again. Sorry about that.
Sure.
Keep going. Yep.
Is that better? Okay. So yeah, so like I said, I have kind of two unrelated questions. One is when there is a delay, it's always the message to the parents is that the bus will be delayed for 10 to 15 minutes or something like that. Whenever that happens, since we're kind of at the end of the route, it's always, it could be up to an hour late. So it just seems like there's no kind of investigation onto actually how much time these buses are going to be delayed when they are. I was wondering if there's something that can be done about that. And then the second question I had about specific bus routes, I'm not sure if it affects other kids, but my kids are the very first stop in the morning, the very last stop in the afternoon. So they're on the bus for more than an hour every day. That's if there's no delays. So wondering if people could address just the routes themselves too.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do both. So thank you for both of those questions. So first, the delays. And so the bus company does a good job of letting us know when there's going to be an issue. We put that communication out within minutes of us receiving any information from the bus company. Sometimes they don't know if a driver calls out sick at the last moment. They certainly don't know that ahead of time. But as soon as they let us know, we pass along the information from them. There have been some instances in the first couple of weeks where we thought a 10-minute delay turned out to be closer to 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. That should not be something that happens ever again, but we'll do our best to let you know if and when that's supposed to happen or going to happen. But we have people in each one of our schools that are trained to send out those school messenger emails and text notifications now. And we're giving you the information. We try to have it out in under 5 minutes of when we receive it from the bus company. And we have to rely on the bus company for that information. And then the second question about the routes, it seems fundamentally unfair that someone who's the first to be picked up in the morning is the last to be dropped off. But the reality of rural towns is that some of our homes are far away from our schools. And so it's unreasonable for us to send the bus to the farthest reaches of our towns in the afternoon for the first stop and then work their way back towards the schools, because that would make the bus route for everybody on that route much longer. And so if we lived in a more urban setting, like in Manchester or Nashua, they can have 7 or 8 bus stops and fill a 71 passenger bus, and it takes them all of 20 minutes. We certainly can't do that when it takes as long as 30 minutes to go from one of our schools to the outreaches of some of our towns. And so that is unfortunate. And our attempt is to run the routes backwards whenever possible, morning to afternoon, so that if you're the last person to be picked up in the morning, you're the first to be dropped off, or you're the last to be dropped off in the afternoon. So it's equitable for everybody on the route, but it's just not possible all of the time. A couple of questions here in the Q&A. So while awaiting resolution, any feedback on carpooling? So this is a great question. This is referring to sports for students that need to be dismissed early from school. I worked with our attorneys on this specific issue. So, and I'm a parent as well, although my youngest is now at Sauhegan. So I've left the middle school years behind, but I understand this issue well. So after school gets out, if students need to be transported somewhere for an athletic event, and we tell parents that the transportation is on them as parents, then you might tell your child to ride with Mrs. Smith and everything is fine. And we support that, and that's great. But when we dismiss kids early from school, if they're dismissed to another adult, even an adult that you as a parent indicate is a safe adult for that child, when it's transportation to a school event, our attorney and our insurance carrier feel strongly that we have some obligation to protect your child in that circumstance, and that we have some liability in that circumstance. And so what we can do is we can offer for parents to become volunteers through our school system, which means they would pass a background check and be fingerprinted. And once that happens, they'd be able to take other people's children to away games as a volunteer. It's a complicated issue and frustrating. I actually fought with our attorneys on that because I felt as if parents should be able to dismiss their kid to whomever they want for transportation. But the reality is that as a parent, you also would hold us accountable in making sure your child was safe to and from that school event, especially when dismissed during the school day. So I understand how difficult that is, and actually don't even completely agree with what the legal and insurance opinion is, but it's what we need to abide by. And so we're working on making that happen. My daughter's stop is at the end of my driveway. I would like for her to just get off the bus and come to the house in the afternoon. I asked the driver, one said it was fine, another said I need to write a letter. With different bus drivers every day, how do I ensure that everyone knows this? I work from home and sometimes have meetings around the time she gets dropped off. She's fine walking to the house on her own. Thank you. So I didn't mention the age of your daughter, but we do require second grade and under to be met by a parent. That's a policy that we have, and it's for safety issues, as you can understand. And so we know it's inconvenient. It's also frustrating when different bus drivers do their own thing and don't follow policies, but that is something that we have to ensure. Kara Bouchard, you've raised your hand, and you can unmute yourself and share your question if you'd like.
Hi, thank you. The bus company this year has refused to come down our street in its entirety. And so now our children are walking farther down to the town beach. I've been trying to work with the bus company and your office to get this resolved. And it just isn't going nowhere, and I'm not receiving actually calls back now. What it's just not safe, especially in the winter, for our kids to be walking that far. It's an almost 10-minute walk for some of us, if not more. And I'm just trying to see if there's some resolution or how we can go about that.
Sure. Well, I thank you for raising the question. And so the process is, if you've spoken to the bus company, have not received a resolution, if you reach out to Amy Facey, who's the business administrator in my office, who handles transportation issues, if you still haven't received a answer to your satisfaction, you can email me and I'll look into it. And in those cases where there's a disagreement on what's safe or not safe, we often employ either the Amherst or Mount Vernon police departments to help us investigate. There's also someone at the state office that we can call to talk about safety at bus stops, and we work through that. The balance is always going to be, from an efficiency standpoint, we want less bus stops because that means shorter routes for everybody, but not if shorter bus routes endanger children on the way to or from that bus stop. And so we're always going to err on the side of safety for that. But if you've not received any help or support, you can email me at asteele@sau39.org. Are you considering moving up the elementary MV2 bus to accommodate getting to high school sooner? The answer is yes. We're still not seeing the MV buses get to the middle high school soon enough. And so look for some changes to some bus routes as soon as next week. We wanted to get through Columbus Day. That's usually the cutoff point where we start to really look at how things have settled. We can't trust the first few weeks of school to be indicative of how the rest of the school year will run, but we are going to make changes to make sure buses get there on time for sure. It seems like more communications are being issued for the end of the day. Are you sending them for the mornings as well? And the answer is yes. As soon as we get information, we pass it along to you folks. I may have missed it, but what is the primary reason for the shortage of drivers? I don't know the answer to that. I know that there is a shortage of workers in many industries, and bus drivers seem to be one of those industries. I know that the Butler Bus Company has done well. They've paid their drivers well and given them a healthy raise this year as well to try to maintain those drivers. But I'm just not sure beyond. I don't think a ton of people are willing to drive our children around in the morning and afternoons, and I wish more were willing to. I do want to say that I made a plea to our community a couple of weeks ago for new bus drivers, and they did receive 4 or 5 new people who are willing to go through the training, and even if they couldn't drive full time, willing to help out at least a day or two a week, and that was really helpful. So thank you for that. Has the district or Butler considered investing in a tracking app for parents outside of the concern for our kiddos? I'm hearing frustration because parents can't plan. Yeah, I get that. I've looked into those things. I have to admit, I'm a little uncomfortable with the ability to track individual kids that close to real time. One of the concerns I have around safety for kids is I have to worry about some bad things none of us like to talk about, and providing a real-time location for people besides us as the school district or the bus company just worries me a little bit. And I tend to be a little risk averse in situations like that. I will look into those things again based on your request, Ms. Curran. It's a good idea. I understand the reason for it, but I also will say that while some elementary parents are reticent to have their kids have a phone, there are other devices you can get for your own individual child that you can be responsible for that track their location. Someone in my office has an Apple AirTag in their kid's backpack, and they're able to track their kid walking from school to where they walk. And so that's something you can do on your own as well, and track your kid in real time if you'd like to do that. If I'm already a volunteer, how would I go about letting coaches know so I can help carpool if needed? Literally let your coach know, CC the John Schuttinger at Amherst Middle School, if that's where you're talking about, and we can start that process right away. So thank you for that. Would it be possible to receive a notification regarding bus route length with more notice so we can make a choice regarding bus or pickup? I've been calling Butler directly and they often don't know the route many hours before the school notice is sent. So you'll have to help me with that. I often, like I said, we pass along the information as soon as we receive it. If you're getting information late, it's because something's happened at the bus company or they're not able to announce the change sooner than they do. So that is frustrating for everybody. In a perfect world, Butler would have a couple of sub drivers ready to go on a moment's notice, but they just don't have any extras. And often they're their safety personnel or other folks are enlisted to drive routes already, and so there's just no subs or spares kicking around, which is frustrating for all. Ms. Fairbanks, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. Our school bus has been consistently showing up about 20 minutes late every afternoon. Is there a possibility that the published routes will be adjusted to reflect these times, just so that parents can plan that that is the expected time of arrival?
Yeah, we certainly can do that. The area of focus for our data right now has been on when they arrive and leave the schools. That's the first thing. And then the next thing is we can start looking into the GPS data about stops themselves. But yeah, we are planning to update routes as soon as next week with some of that information. I know that's frustrating. There's nothing worse than leaving a work meeting a few minutes before the meeting's over to rush home to a bus stop and then wait there for 20 to 30 minutes for the bus to show up and realize you probably could have finished that work meeting or done that last thing at work before you really actually had to leave. So I totally get that. Is the plan to reinstate the original bus 4 route once additional Butler employees have been trained? I believe the answer is yes. Butler folks that are on the call, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is our plan. That would be my expectation. We do want that bus route brought back. So yes. Hello, no question. Just wanted to say I'm starting my training soon for full-time driver and looking forward to it. Thank you very much for doing that. We look forward to you going through the training process. Hopefully you don't have to drive my children around. And if you do, I hope they're well behaved. So those are all of the questions so far. Any other questions I can answer? I knew as soon as I said that there'd be more questions that pop up. After the analysis evaluation of the routes, should we be expecting a more reliable schedule? Yes, it has to be reliable. So things happen and there's accidents and all sorts of issues that delay buses. But in general, you should be able to know when your bus is going to get there within five or so minutes. That's a reasonable expectation that we should all have. I failed to mention before, we're also working with the Amherst Police Department, who is a great partner to us, and doing what we can with traffic to make sure that buses are prioritized around school zones to get them out and about and back to their routes as soon as possible. But yes, as a parent, we can't get it down to the minute, but we should be able to get it within 10 minutes for sure and 5 minutes in almost every case on almost every day for you for sure. The bus company confirms that bus 4 will be reinstated as well. Someone's trying to get in here and the door's locked. But any other questions? I'm going to go open the door for somebody and wait for your. All right, hearing no additional questions, I want to thank you all for being here today and for your patience. You can always reach out to me with any questions or concerns anytime. Otherwise, have a nice day and take care. Bye-bye.